This episode is sponsored by Claude AI. Check it out at claude.ai/PMP, all lowercase. You're listening to Pretty Much Pop, a culture podcast, no doubt with acid dripping from your multiple sets of teeth, but we won't hold it against you. We're today discussing the Alien franchise that began with Ridley Scott's 1979 film and has been newly retrofitted with a TV prequel by Noah Hawley called Alien Earth. This is Mark Linsenmeyer, wondering what's in that cool egg-like looking thing. Let me dangle my face over it.
This is Al Baker, severely testing the bounds of credible evolutionary biology.
I'm Sarahlyn Bruck, and some days it does not pay to get out of your hermetically sealed cryogenic sleep chamber in the morning.
Wow.
Just rolls off the tongue.
That was quite a take. We have Wendy, and we have the boy who doesn't grow up, and my question is, who is the Captain Hook in this show?
Well, it must be you, Lawrence Ware, since you didn't introduce yourself. So there you go. You're introduced.
But they know who I am.
You're a legend, Lawrence. You're a legend.
I'm not a legend, but they know who I am, though. I'm infamous.
So the original film is, of course, such a landmark, and Aliens, the first sequel, is probably a film people watched multiple times as well. And this new show is so good. I know Al at least was coming into this thinking like, I don't have to experience any of the stuff in between, right? I did actually rewatch just about everything. I didn't rewatch the first two films because I've seen those enough. But
oh, wow.
I didn't remember how some of the others were connected. I didn't remember the lore. I had almost no memory of Alien 3 because it's so boring and forgettable.
That's a really bad movie. It's a really bad movie.
David Fincher. Wow.
Yeah, David Fincher directed it, but he has disavowed that one because there was so much studio interference. He really does not like that movie at all.
History with the franchise? Love it, hate it, indifferent?
I love the Alien franchise. I mean, so going way back, I've always enjoyed them. I actually was introduced to the franchise by Aliens as opposed to Alien. Of course, I went back and watched the original, but I really love the Alien franchise. It's one of my favorite franchises of all time. When I was in middle school, I used to write fan fiction before I knew what fan fiction was of the Alien franchise. I used to imagine being in a world where aliens were chasing me and the aliens were in my school and all that kind of stuff. Just weird stuff. I just really, really enjoy this franchise. I always imagined it originally as an action franchise as opposed to a horror one. But going back to watch the original Alien film, I want to say I was in college is when I watched that first one, because I watched Aliens and then I watched a really bad Alien 3 and I watched the subsequent Alien films and just always imagined it as a action franchise. And then going back and watching the original let me know, okay, it's actually kind of a horror thing going on here. But anyway, love the franchise. I've always been interested in it. And so I was very excited about Alien Earth and very interested in what Noah Hawley, who I thought did a wonderful job with Fargo, did a wonderful job with Legion. I was always interested in what he was going to do with this show. And we can talk about my feelings about it because you guys seem to be a little higher on it than I am. But I was always interested in what he was going to do with this show. And so that's my relationship to the franchise. Really, really enjoyed it. Always was a big fan of it. Not as much of a fan of this show, but we can get into why.
Sarah, you were shaking your head.
Yeah, no, I was not. We'll talk about the show. But the first Alien movie, this may be my origin story of why I don't really like horror movies. Because I saw this movie when I was way, way too young at a friend's house on a sleepover. She had HBO, and we watched this movie together, and I don't think I slept for the next 6 months. So I found it so scary. I mean, it came out in 1979, and it makes me think I probably saw it the next year when it came out on HBO. I was still 8 or 9, and that was too young to be seeing this movie.
No, not at all. I watched Halloween at 8 or 9. It's not that young at all.
Well, all right. Well, you're tougher than I am. I had heard about this movie and I wanted to see this movie. The trailer for Alien was kind of legendary and it totally sucked me in. But my parents, if they had known I had seen this movie at my friend's house, they probably never would have let me return to their house ever again. And I saw Aliens, of course, later on, and I loved it. And then I just kind of fell off. I didn't see anything Alien related until we started talking about the new series by Noah Hawley. I, too, love him at the helm of Fargo, but I did not appreciate this series the way that I had hoped.
That is really, really interesting because I'm going to top line by saying I read reviews of this show and everyone seems to love it. And I came away from it, like I liked it as I was watching it, but the more I thought about it, the more I kind of didn't like it. So it looks like we're pulling against the grain here. Oh, no, although Mark opened by saying how wonderful it was.
I just assumed that you guys would all like it, except maybe that Sarah would be a little squeamish, but...
I'm glad because I got some real problems with this show. But my history with Alien is just a bit kind of casual. I came quite late to the original movie. I think I probably saw Aliens first, but like The Exorcist, because Alien had a reputation of being incredibly scary, it kind of put me off watching it. But it's, I was in my 20s when I watched it, so it was surprisingly fine. But what it is a masterful piece of sci-fi horror, and it might be my favorite Ridley Scott film. This TV show confirms a suspicion I've had about the Alien franchise for a long time, which is that it's just not a really very franchisable movie. Everything I think that is wonderful about Alien, the first Alien, is basically unrepeatable without just treading over exactly the same ground again, which is one of the problems that I had with Alien Earth, and maybe we could just get it to talking about it. So I watched the first Alien film again this afternoon, having finished watching Alien Earth last night. I didn't realize until I was rewatching Alien how many shots are just fan service reconstructions in Alien Earth of shots from the first movie, and how many of the sequences are just, because when I was watching Alien Earth, the big thing I was thinking was, this just feels like a lot of the same sequences from the first Alien movie. And then I rewatched Alien again. Not only are they the same sequences, a lot of them are the same shots, which I assume is some kind of fan service. But this is, I think, the main thing that stuck in my core about Alien Earth is that it got stuck between trying to expand the Alien universe into a new kind of story and just providing fan service for Alien diehards. And it ended up managing to do neither of those things as well as I wanted them to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess a thing just to throw in initially. So it seems like the inclusion of the android in the first film is a bit incidental, right? Again, I didn't just rewatch this, so is it true that we don't know that he's an android until well into it, or we just don't know his allegiance?
Yeah.
Yeah, until he dies.
Okay. And now it's, of course, in the new film, just front and center. And there was sort of some question of, is this in the Blade Runner universe? Technically, no. But aesthetically, it's really close, and it might as well be.
To Blade Runner? I completely disagree. I think that the aesthetic of the show is very much trying to harken back to the original film. That's always the way that I kind of understood the show trying to do. Was that you guys' understanding of it?
I'm just saying the whole franchise, like they're both Ridley Scott properties.
True.
Blade Runner and Alien came out not that far from each other, and so there was some question.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And of course, whenever you get androids, as we discussed in our whole android episode, you get certain, well, do we have to be loyal to the humans? Aren't we our own thing? Aren't we better? So, it's sort of unavoidable that those tropes are going to come in. And sure enough, we get increasingly throughout the franchise with the David character in the prequels and now these Peter Pan-ish characters.
Just from what we've seen in the first series, it could just as easily be both a Blade Runner and an Alien prequel going on at the same time. It just happens to, it's called Alien Earth. But that was what I thought. Because the more interesting stuff in the show, to me at least, is this corporate dystopia stuff going on, which is far more Blade Runner-y than Alien-y.
Yeah, it is. I mean, fundamentally, I think where the show goes wrong, and really where I think the franchise goes wrong, is it really zeroes in on the androids, synthetic humans, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just not very interested in those kind of questions. I'm not. What I'm interested in are the xenomorphs. They're awesome. That's just the better part of it. And then humans and their relationship and the corporation's relationship with the xenomorphs and trying to bring the xenomorphs to Earth and trying to use them as bioweapons and things of that nature. But the whole synthetic part of it, I was never very interested in. I mean, it's okay for them to be there, but to zero in on them and make them kind of the central part, like, I think that's where Alien Covenant goes wrong. Prometheus is okay for me, but that's where Alien Covenant goes wrong. That's where I think this show goes wrong. It really zeroes in on the synthetic humans. And what I loved about the show was the idea that maybe the universe is far more expansive. Like, it makes sense that the universe would be very expansive and there would be different alien life forms there, right? And so to bring those into the story, I thought that's brilliant. I was very interested in that. The whole alien with the big eye, very cool. I think that's okay. But to like sidetrack it and really talk about these kids who were brought back to life and made into sense, and the cyborg guy, he's okay. But like, just to make it really more about the synthetic things, because they're not human beings, but the synthetic beings, as opposed to really centering human beings who are really at risk, right? Because the synthetics are ultimately not very much at risk. I mean, even though some die, but the humans are very much at risk. And to center them would be a much more engaging, fun show for me to watch. But to make it all about these synthetic, beings and all that kind of stuff, it lost me. It really, really lost me.
The show was so frustrating as a viewer because I thought that it brought up a lot of really interesting questions. If they had been able to kind of see this stuff through, like the relationship between, for example, the brother and sister, there were so many things going on there with her leaving her human body and now becoming is she a hybrid? Now I'm all confused. She's not a synthetic. She's a hybrid, right?
She's a synthetic, but with mental things that were copied off of a human.
Right. And he's a human, and their relationship, for one thing, I thought it was so interesting that if it were me, one of my siblings came to me in a different body telling me that they were my brother or my sister, I would take a little minute to be able to really think about that. That takes a long time to process. But anyway, but that aside, he seemed to accept it pretty quickly. But the fact that where her allegiance it lies and his allegiance lies, none of that seemed to be fully explored in the show that had so many hours to be able to explore that. And the fact that Noah Hawley wasted an entire episode just to remake the original Alien baffled my mind.
I love that. That was my favorite episode.
And that's also saying something.
It was a good episode, but it was also unnecessary. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was unnecessary and it was the best one. And that also brings me back to the fact that the first Alien is the best movie out of the entire franchise because it's so simple. It was, oops, we brought an alien on board a ship and now all of us are going to die. That was it. That's the premise. That was the entire plot of that movie. And it was fantastic. And this one brings up all of these potentially interesting philosophical issues and never sees any of them through.
Yeah. It's, I think, worse than underexplored, but frustrating is absolutely the word. Because I want to make sure that we say on recording that a lot about this show, I mean, Mark will say plenty about it, but a lot about this show is just brilliantly done. All the way through, the soundtrack is impeccable. The way it looks so great, people are turning in fantastic performances.
I didn't love the soundtrack.
So much about it is fantastic. And that makes some of the weird disappointments just so frustrating. Sarah's point is absolutely right. They set up all of these really brilliant places for characters to come from.
They really do.
But not only do they not explore any of them, all of the characters' decisions, like past the second or third episode, are completely inexplicable to me. Mm-hmm. We get to the end of the series, and like the guy who's the guy, the cyborg guy, is that Morrow? Is that his name?
Kirsch? Morrow is the bad one. Yeah. The cyborg, yeah.
So Kirsch is kind of almost there. Morrow is the only character by the end of the series who I feel like I understand what he's doing and why.
He's the main character in my mind.
Is a complete mystery. And it really, I completely take your point, Laura. If you see that you've got an Alien TV show, you want aliens to be the center of it. But it really feels like all the best ideas here are about the synth stuff and the corporate intrigue. And someone told Noah, you've got to put aliens in this, so better make it about that quickly. It's a huge mess.
I mean, it's almost like he wasn't interested in the aliens at all.
Yeah.
And the aliens have always been the best part of the Alien franchise. I mean, it's called Alien.
Well, let's talk about that as a monster.
Yeah.
Because it, compared to Jaws, like, I think it's very similar. What didn't we say
Jaws in
that
space?
that it was influenced directly by Jaws, that it was,
Yeah.
that this is the perfect killing machine and it can live in outer space and can do and can defend itself in every part of its being, that you can't even get the stupid thing off your face because it wraps around your neck and it drips acid if you try to cut it off and tries to choke. It's an awesome thing, but it's stupid. And the times where they've tried in the other movies to make it a little bit smart, like, well, this one's the queen and it's sending the other ones, like, they don't do anything with it. And there is nothing to be done with it because you can't communicate with it. And so at best we get in Alien Resurrection, which was surprisingly good.
It was okay.
Brad Dourif narrating somehow that we thought he was killed a half hour ago in the movie, but he's actually just sort of stuck in some sort of cocoon and able to narrate what the queen is thinking and is up to. And, oh, Ridley, you've been summoned down here to just witness the birth of basically your grandchild. That was a cool thing that they did, but it is not a good use of intelligence. So the fact that they introduced the eyeball alien in this one, I'll give a lot of credit for that. And I think the varieties of aliens and how they work together is just awesome.
I agree.
I really find the main hybrid, we're calling them, Wendy, to be just a really captivating performance. And I feel like those various characters are given just the right amount of characterization. They're basically kids, and they're kids that can be manipulated, and they're whiny, some of them. But Nibs, who sort of goes insane and her memory has to be reset a little bit, I thought that was wonderfully handled. I thought that the dynamic with their human parents was pretty darn well done. I find the billionaire, the boy cavalier, he's a very frustrating, weird character. He's the only one that I don't know. I like that we're seeing more that the corporate stuff is filled out, because in all the other movies, it's just someone, maybe there's one corporate representative on the ship. Probably there's nobody, and they're just sort of have send in commands that say, hey, we need to have this alien. But it's just so bloodless and repetitive. And so to actually have something real here, that this competition between the companies, I can see on a moment-to-moment basis how, he is a slow burn thing. Lawrence, I maybe disagree with you. I thought Legion season 1 was amazing, but season 2 is almost unwatchable to me, just because he is so experimental and slow burn about things. I thought this was much more a return to form, to Fargo sort of form. Let's stop for some sponsor messages, which, of course, just so you know, you would not need to hear at all were you subscribe to the supporter feed headquartered at patreon.com/prettymuchpop. You can listen to that feed on any podcast app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever. And in addition to avoiding ads, you'd get to hear our after talks for nearly every episode, where we talk off topic about other media. I would like to talk to you about Masterclass. I have a long history with Masterclass. I've experienced many of their classes. They have over 200 of them. Often when you want to learn about a little something, you just look it up on YouTube. But Masterclass is going to actually curate and design courses. These are by the world's best writers, entertainers, business leaders, politicians, chefs, like the late, great Jane Goodall, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Cornel West, Paul Krugman, Noam Chomsky, James Cameron, Steve Martin, Amy Poehler, Judd Apatow, Aaron Sorkin, David Lynch, Annie Leibovitz, Ron Howard, Helen Mirren. The list goes on and on. Plans start at $10 a month, which is less than pretty much any of the streaming services right now. It's billed annually, and you get unlimited access to the whole library. You can dive deeply into a class, like I jumped into the 19-part class by Spike Lee on independent filmmaking. So I could learn more about things like how a director interacts with the director of photography, how Spike Lee uses storyboards. He actually gives us examples from his film Malcolm X. So you could have a whole experience like this, wonderfully shot, or you can pick and choose, experience little bits of things. Masterclass creates playlists so you can sample a bunch of classes around a common theme in very bite-sized pieces so it can fit into your lifestyle. You can, of course, experience these on any of your devices, and you can watch the video or just treat it like a podcast. I've found this valuable. I think you will too. 3 in 4 surveyed members feel inspired every time they watch Masterclass. And every new membership comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there is no risk. Right now, our listeners get an additional 15% off any annual membership at masterclass.com/pretty. That's 15% off at masterclass.com/pretty, masterclass.com/pretty. I'd also like to talk to you about Claude AI. I will say I'm somewhat of an AI skeptic. I'm certainly not going to use it to write my papers, but I do use the web. We all have problems that we're trying to figure out in our personal lives, in our businesses. And Claude AI is for minds that don't stop at good enough. It's a collaborator that actually understands your entire workflow and works with you, not for you. Whether you're debugging code at midnight or strategizing your next business move, Claude extends your thinking to tackle the problems that matter. So I've been trying to figure out how to have our YouTube videos get more visibility. A lot of people discover podcasts through YouTube. I've treated it more or less as an afterthought, especially since like this podcast only shows up there as audio. But Claude walked me through the literature, the current thinking about how to use keywords, how the algorithm works. And unlike regular web research, I can tell Claude what my current situation is and get recommendations tailored specifically to me. And more than just a consultant, Claude Code can actually write me little scripts to help with problems like this. Are you ready to tackle bigger problems? Sign up for Claude today and get 50% off Claude Pro when you use my link, claude.ai/PMP. That's claude.ai/PMP right now for 50% off your first 3 months of Claude Pro, which includes access to all the features mentioned in today's episode. That's claude.ai/PMP. And make sure that PMP is all lowercase.
The performances, I agree, are really good. Like the actors all hold the screen really, really well, especially what's-her-face plays Wendy. But the characterization is just perplexing. Like, we don't know, what did she think about going to become a superhuman synth? Did she want to go with her brother? Does she want to stay? What does she like about it? And the Nibs thing is an interesting bit of drama with the pregnancy and everything, but we didn't get to see her really beforehand, so there wasn't much of a contrast. We didn't have much at stake. And then the last set of choices that Wendy made were just completely perplexing to me. Based on her relationship with her brother up to that point, I was really confused, like why they couldn't have talked it out, why there didn't seem to be any space for them to communicate with each other there, especially because like Nibs was clearly behaving erratically.
Yes, strangely, yeah.
Yeah, and Wendy, she really seemed to go from I'm all about being a good corporate citizen to I'm the mother of the aliens and I'm going to send them to wreak my vengeance without really any development in between, which is odd. If you're choosing to make an 8-episode show.
I think you're right, Al. There should have been more time there for some character development and just the logic of, okay, these are children, so they have half-formed brains anyway. We're going to put them into these super bodies and then give them all of this responsibility when they don't have any life experience at all and without any direction of what to do, So for example, when Nibs comes back after having her mind blanked, no one told Wendy about that. And so Wendy's just kind of confused. Like, why?
And what did they expect did they expect no one to notice or?
Right. And I found so much of that thread in the show. Like, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And he's, the boy wonder is supposed to be this brilliant guy, who's supposed to be like an Elon Musk type. And he's brilliant, but he's not brilliant. And we all get that. But again, he just makes some decisions that just don't make any sense at all if you think too hard about it.
It's really interesting because like minute to minute, the pace is very like thoughtful and leisurely, but it feels like the arc of the plot has been massively, massively rushed. Like the big like revolution moment at the end of season 1, that feels like maybe a season 3 finale. Exactly what you said, Sarah. We need like half a season of them growing into becoming a corporate superhero team, and then like half a season of how they feel about that. And then
fewer aliens.
Why do we have
Lawrence would not be happy. We're gonna have.
Well, it's not fewer aliens necessarily, but why do we have to drop the alien in the middle of the apartment complex in episode 2? In the first Alien movie, like there's no blood until an hour into the film.
It's a slow dread. Yeah, it slowly builds up.
That feels to me like studio notes and someone saying, we need the alien to be ripping through people.
How do we bring in viewers early and often and make this an alien thing and make them excited about the next season, that if it was just nothing really happens, you know, what the big reveal is like that they can have their memories blanked or something like that as a season ender, like that would have been just nothing.
Let's say, okay, so Sydney Chandler, the daughter of Kyle Chandler, she's really, really good as Wendy. I think that she is a wonderful performer. Alex Lawler is her brother. I thought he was good. His name is Babu Sise, I think his name is. He was really good as Morrow. I really, really enjoyed him. I thought he really embodied that character quite well. And Timothy Oliphant, I thought that his characterization was quite good, like the very detached, removed, the way that he embodied that character. I thought that worked well.
If you want still waters to run deep, you call Timothy Oliphant.
Absolutely.
Underused so far, but I was sort of expecting, you know, and he had a little more to do in the last episode, and I'm sure he will going forward.
Yeah, I thought so too.
So I do want to give the show its flowers. I thought that the production design was beautiful. I thought that the retro feel of the show was good. But man, I was so disappointed in this show, you know, because I think Sarah said it perfectly. It set up all these interesting, genuinely philosophical ideas and never capitalized on them. And the alien being connected to Wendy and her having some control over it, cool idea, never really did anything with it. And what I'm hearing from you guys is that we got 8 hours of a show and it didn't really use its time well. You know, it didn't, like, that's a lot of time. I watch British shows that are 4 hours, 6 hours, and they do so much more work with character than this show did in 8 hours. So what was he doing? Because Noah Hawley knows how to make a good show. He has established that. He knows how to do it. So what went wrong here? And I'm very happy that Mark enjoyed it. Very happy. But the synthetic part was not fully fleshed out. We didn't really get time with the kids, as you guys have already mentioned, to understand why they make the turn that they do. We don't get enough aliens. Like, I don't know what to like. Now, I think that's episode 5. That is essentially a remake of the movie. Great. Fun. Yeah. Enjoyed it. It was an utter waste of time while it was simultaneously very, very good. Like, it was, I do not understand what this show was trying to do. I don't get it. I do not get it at all. And it was very frustrating because I'm a huge fan of the show, but we got nothing here.
You said, Mark, that like, how do you get people bought into the cliffhanger? I could absolutely see a season 1 cliffhanger where the last shot is us seeing that Wendy can communicate with the xenomorph. That's
a wonderful cliffhanger. There's this cliffhanger just hanging there, just dangling there, and it won't be capitalized on for what, 2-3 years? I'm so frustrated.
I wonder too, because Noah Hawley does such a good job with the Fargo series, and each one of those seasons is self-contained. And so it has a beginning, middle, and end. And I had heard somewhere that he had sort of seen his vision for the Alien Earth show was maybe 5 seasons. And I just don't know if he fully has a grasp over how to do TV in that scope. I just don't know. I mean, and he probably doesn't, but he would do a much better job than me. But it just felt like he just didn't have a firm grasp of how to do an opening season of a 5-season show.
Well, maybe we should expand this rather than, no, I think there was enough characterization. No, I don't think that, to the rest of the properties. That the thing that I most liked about the new show is just that I feel like it captured the tone, the sneaking around. And that's something that even in Alien 3, there's some really cool tonal environmental elements. They're on a prison planet everybody has these shaved heads. There's some familiar actors. Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones is
they've raided the RSC.
Is like the romantic interest. Like that's worth the price of admission. I saw that Paul McGann, one of the Doctor Who's, was in it, but then I didn't actually notice which one of the bald guys was him. So that's my own failure. But yeah, it just that, there were, as Lawrence mentioned, there were just issues with the pacing and quite a few other things with that. But I feel like it's been pretty consistent. And what was the one that the Alien film that just came out last year?
Romulus.
Which I thought was a perfectly good teen alien film. Like, it's just like Alien, but everybody's teens. That was a great show. I mean, yeah, it's very much teen, but I thought Romulus was a real return to form. I didn't love the way it ended I just didn't love the way it ended. Alien, of course, is Alien. That's just a great show. A great movie. I would say Aliens is just as good as Alien. It's just a different take on the alien kind of idea.
It's a different genre. You shove the same monster into a different genre of movie and see what happens.
So now we should have a medical drama with just keep doing different genres.
We're not going to do a medical drama because that's going to turn into a horror movie.
How about a rom-com?
The Alien rom-com, yes.
You guys are so disrespectful. The point is that I think that at its height, these movies are quite good. Aliens. I will put Romulus up there with them. Alien Resurrection, I think Mark likes that one a little bit better than me. Prometheus is kind of navel-gazily. Not as good to me, but it's fun, but it's not as good to me. But nevertheless, I think that these movies at their height are really, really good, either action films or sci-fi horror films. And Alien and Alien Romulus are more in line with the sci-fi horror. Aliens, and I would say probably Resurrection, is more in line with like the action side of it. But I think these films are at their height very good. At their worst, they're very boring, as you begin to see with things like Alien Covenant. So, it's a mixed bag. And I really wish that someone would continue with what Alien Romulus did. Like, just take the aliens, put people in peril, let it play out. Because that is, when these movies are at their best, that's what they do, right? Even Aliens, which is an action film that puts people in peril. And I always remember that scene where they're looking at these little things and they see the aliens encroaching on them. And it's so much tension and it's so scary. And you're just waiting for something to happen. Like when the alien films are doing those things, they're at their best. When they start getting navel-gazing and trying to explain the origins of humanity and all that kind of stuff, that's where they lose me. And I just wish that this show was more along the lines of the former stuff than as opposed to kind of trying to explain human consciousness and the relationship with humans and technology. Miss me with that.
Disagree a little bit because I think it's important to go back to, we half started this conversation earlier, but to go back to like, why does the xenomorph work as a monster in a horror movie? And the themes, like Mark brought up Jaws earlier, and I think the themes are very similar between Jaws and Alien because there's a lot about like hubris and corporate structures and the discounting of people's safety and all that, and like the overwhelming power of nature and confronted by human hubris. And that's a great theme that you can drop into any like number of genres of movie. I think one of the mistakes so I haven't seen all of the Alien movies, but I suspect that when they go wrong, just like when Alien Earth kind of falls short, is when they take the strategy of trying to recreate the kind of formal elements of one of the earlier movies, so like either a horror movie a horror sequence that kind of looks like the first Alien, or an action sequence that kind of looks like the second Alien, rather than thinking about what the themes are that the xenomorph allows you to explore and dropping that in a new and interesting context. So the xenomorph allows you to explore some things about humanity, right? It's about the first film is about humanity. It's about femininity. It's a great feminist film. And it lets you explore like all of those themes because the xenomorph is so unhuman, monstrous. There's a lot of body horror that feeds into that, all of that kind of stuff. So there is absolutely room to stand up some synths over here and go, okay, these people are kind of human but inhuman. The xenomorph is maybe more human in some respects than the synths, but less human in other respects. So let's, play with it. There is room to play with these ideas. They're just not followed through. They're not explored well or properly in the show.
And I also haven't seen all of the Alien movies, which I probably don't even need to say out loud. But both the Alien and Aliens had the same connective tissue, as far as the characters and some of the plot aspects, but each one was so different, not just because of the director's visions, but they were products of their time. So Alien comes out in 1979, and it is this kind of elevated monster movie in a lot of ways. It's a monster movie that doesn't look like what monster movies have looked like in the past. And it brings in all of these questions and themes that we had been talking about during the 70s, like including what you said, that it's a very feminist movie. And then Aliens comes in, and it brings in with it all of those 80s themes and questions that we had been discussing. And I see Noah Hawley's vision as trying to bring in our current themes and questions that we're talking about now. And he's really not doing them justice, but I see him trying to do the same thing. But at the same time, he's also losing some of the threads that we're seeing from the earlier pieces. And I wondered what you guys thought about that.
The relationship between Wendy and the xenomorph is deeply confusing.
Yeah.
As an example of that, because the xenomorph is exactly what her brother says. Everything we know about the xenomorph is that it is a ruthless killing machine. And there is absolutely the space for a TV show like this to refine, deepen, challenge that understanding. But I want it to take a little bit more time. Because, yeah, it's just confusing. Because it feels like we want to agree with the brother. No, we've seen all of these movies. We know that this is not your pet. Like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And the TV show just insists that, no, you've changed your mind about this now.
If you're going to end your series with, what's the title of it is something like Who Are the Monsters or Who Are the Real Monsters, something like that.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel like that was earned. I was like, I am so willing to go there with you, but you have to lead us there. You have to lead us to this point.
Really pulled so many punches through the series, didn't it? Because there was they almost escaped, but then they decided that they didn't, and then this was almost resolved, but then it wasn't. Mm-hmm. We haven't mentioned the subplot. To just talk about something again that I really enjoyed, I think was very well done. Was the subplot with the two kids, or the kid who was being blackmailed to deliver the guy. Some of my favorite stuff in the show was the synth characters behaving like children, which was all just really fun to watch. And that particular plot line,
I agree with
was
that.
a really good example of a well-motivated play on that. Because it's he's a kid with all this responsibility, so he's a security risk, gets exploited, and acts exactly as a kid would in that situation. So it was really good.
Yeah, I like those two. Those two kids had good chemistry together.
But then it all got reset back to zero at the end, like it's a 90s episodic TV show.
Mm-hmm.
We should talk about Lawrence probably is the only other one on here that watched these movies, but on the potential greater lore that Ridley Scott decided years later to return to this because he had these ideas. Wiki's telling me that he worked it out originally with James Cameron. And I still, having just rewatched the movie, I'm still unclear of what exactly the lore was, that it was these giant humans created us, but then they looked upon our works and decided that we were not worthy. And so they were actually sending a ship full of the aliens to Earth to destroy us, as a Noah's flood sort of thing, to reset things. But it crashed elsewhere. And then a team, and having like Michael Fassbender, having actors from various eras, having Danny McBride involved. I just always like that kind of stuff. Billy Crudup, just really interesting choices with some of these, with these couple of films. I think that's all there is to it.
I have no idea what's going on with these movies. They're kind of all over the place. I think all that kind of starts with Prometheus, which is co-written by Damon Lindelof.
Yeah.
A really good writer. That one has just a stat cast. Charlize Theron, Idris Elba's in there. Guy Pearce is in there. It's a really well cast film. And honestly, if it was not part of the alien mythos, I think that movie would just work. And all this comes from, there's kind of a throwaway thing that happens in the very first Alien film where I think they call the guy Space Jockey, but like they find the alien, and there's this guy who's an alien and kind of like dead, and there's questions there, and it's never really explored in the original film, but all of this lore comes from the presence of Space Jockey being in that first film.
So that's one of the characters from Covenant or something that's supposed to be sitting on a ship, or
I think so. Like it's so unclear. It is so deeply unclear what they're trying to do with that. It's like a whole bunch of half-baked ideas that are not really fully fleshed out. And I think that Ridley Scott wanted to flesh out those ideas, but he kind of ran out of road because Prometheus was pretty successful. Alien Covenant less so. And I just think that they didn't give him money for the rest of the films that he wanted to kind of try to explore the lore. And so they kind of did a hard reset and went with the Alien Romulus direction. But nevertheless, like he tried to establish this world and he wanted to go deeper into it, but he was never really able to kind of tell the story that he wanted to tell. That's the reason why those two films, Prometheus and Alien Covenant, are just kind of weird. They're just kind of disjointed. They're not
forgettable,
quite horror
ultimately.
films.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not quite action films. They're just strange sci-fi stuff. And I would like to see what he was trying to do there, but he just never got a chance to do it. So those films are weird, and they kind of lose me because they try to go in a different direction that I'm just not interested in going with this particular franchise.
Just a weird decision to make, like why you would look at Alien and think this needs a really concrete origin story because nothing about it. Because isn't the point that it's unknowably alien. And
yeah,
for one thing, because the stupid origin, I haven't seen these films, but the stupid origin story that you put forward, Mark, like it would have to be something that dumb in order for the aliens to make sense. Like something I've kept under my hat is that the eyeball thing from the new show. I mean, it looks great. I love the eyeball thing. But this is a creature that has evolved in the distant galaxy so that it can camouflage itself in the skulls of the victims to its parasitic ways. And it has evolved to solely resemble a terrestrial mammal's eyeball. Like the xenomorph's eyes don't look like that. None of the other aliens' eyes look like that. Why? Like, how did it evolve to perfectly fit into a sheep's head? Millions of light years away. It would have to be that it was the divine creation of a malevolent god. So, you know, I'm glad that Ridley Scott at least accepts that.
Well, just to spoil a little bit of Prometheus is that they do discover one of these gods is still alive, is in and it of course ends up being an asshole, you know, and trying to kill everybody.
Yeah,
and then they have a cool alien hybrid after the alien eats that guy.
Look, that plot worked great in Star Trek V, so why wouldn't it work for an Alien sequel?
But that does at least attempt to continue the trend of Alien to Aliens. We're moving to another genre to Prometheus. Now it's going to be sort of I don't want to say harder sci-fi, but it's sort of a more lore-based sci-fi, a different kind of thing fundamentally. I mean, maybe with the new show, that is a fundamentally new take, even though you guys are saying that it's just trying to reproduce everything that was good about the original film. But it does introduce wacky people doing stuff in a lab and focus it, like at least has a different emphasis, that it is a different genre of thing. And you're saying this is to its detriment, perhaps like Prometheus.
I think the criticism is actually the other way. It feels like they don't commit fully enough to going in the new direction. Because if this show had been, it's like an Expanse type thing where it's, you know, a gritty kind of political drama about corporations trying to take control of this unknowable alien entity, that's a great show. I would watch the hell out of that show. And that feels like one of the shows maybe they were trying to make. And another one is like, we're going to do Westworld, but better. And there's absolutely room for people to do Westworld, but better. And why not this show? But they, again, don't run with it enough. So they do both of these things, both of which are interesting possible directions for the show, but they don't really pick one. And then they also try and remake the first Alien film at the same time. And it feels like diluted.
Maybe it's just that this franchise was not made for a TV show. That's kind of what
It might be that. And also there's the confounding thing that I think this is supposed to take place a year before the original Alien film.
2 years.
Is it 2 years? That makes no sense to me.
Isn't that the point, is that the corporation that we only see through its communications to the robot on the ship in the original film, the reason it wants this alien is because it has heard something about it. It is the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, which is the one that ran the original ship in this TV show, and that is trying to reclaim its property. Like the Focus one, that these people clearly is obliterated or something, like is no longer a factor, that the other corporation wins entirely and rules the earth or something. I don't know exactly what the political situation is. They don't really focus on that, except saying in Resurrection, Earth sucks. I don't want to go to Earth. Earth is a hellhole. Like, it's been hollow. So all the oh no, it's going to Earth. It's going to destroy our home base, the cradle of our civilization. Nobody feels that way. They're just like,
So this made sense to you, Mark? Like all that made sense to you?
I mean, more or less, that these corporations running things are running things into the ground. Yes, but
I'm talking about the continuity and how I didn't understand it.
I don't understand it yet, but I think that, well, okay, if the prequel thing is that the last scene of
it's supposed to connect
season 5 will Rogue One us right into the original film.
Rogue One, great movie though. Great movie.
Well, think about, by comparison, so we've never talked about The Thing, which I think has a lot of DNA in common with Alien and is one of, I think, as good a film from this era. Like, I would put it alongside this. And they did do a prequel, which was okay. I've actually watched it a couple times. I liked it enough because I really like that kind of body horror. But it was because in that opening scene, so like in the opening scene of Alien, they're saying, oh, they found one guy, the space jockey guy, whatever. That's not that motivating. Like, how did that one guy get there? But in The Thing, they run across this whole Norwegian base, and there's just a parade of horrors from room to room to room, including the two guys stuck together upside down or whatever. And you get to see then in this prequel, every single little thing. Oh, here's how the axe went in the wall. Here's that. I don't know, that there's something satisfying to me, even though it's kind of stupid about that approach.
That sounds like a movie that it's more fun to make than watch.
Yeah.
Because you get to watch The Thing a bunch and go, oh, here's something that we can build an action scene around.
Very similar to that Fantastic Four movie from the 90s.
Okay.
More fun to make than watch. Yeah.
I see.
I see.
Anything else we want to bring into the conversation here in terms of other... clearly they're not done. Apparently there's going to be a Romulus sequel. There's going to be more of this. So Alien is not something that we are done with. I wouldn't have thought that this kind of Alien is worth a franchise. Like, it's cool, but is it that cool?
Oh, it's definitely that cool. One of the things that I'm interested in, kind of, because we're having a little bit of a renaissance with both Alien and also Predator. Predator is really doing some cool stuff. And it seems like they want to put that in the same world, I think.
There's that new animated movie which looks absolutely awesome.
It's a banger. It's a really good movie. It's really fun. Really, really fun.
And when we talked about Predator, they're doing basically what we decided should happen when we last talked about Predator, which is just make an infinite number of these movies and just decide a different historical period to drop the Predator into.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're doing. And that's essentially what that animated movie is. It's like a story that takes place during World War II, I believe. And then a story that takes place in like the Viking era, I believe. And then there's a samurai story. Like, it's really fun. Really, really fun. Really well done.
Did anyone watch any of the Alien versus Predator movies?
I watched both of them.
I saw the first.
For the other show that we did on Predator, yes. Were you not on that?
Oh,
Sarah?
right.
Yeah, the first movie was okay. The second movie was terrible.
Well, they just treat the alien like it's an idiot. It's just it's the killing machine. The Predator is the interesting one that you can actually have some sort of weird relationship with, adversarial, honor-based something. And the alien is just a snake, basically. And they are not considered canon in the Alien. Now that Alien Earth has decided it doesn't give a shit about canon, maybe this matters even less. But it seems like that is not a good way, that franchise, of exploring the aliens. It's just, another... Yeah, it's like having sharks. You can keep putting sharks in movies and make them ferocious, but it doesn't make them better. I don't know.
I mean, but we do need to pay some respect to the alien, though, because like the design of it is really cool. It's a very menacing character, and then it's very brilliant to have the blood of the alien being acid. Really, really smart. Really smart.
All of that stuff, great. Although, I don't know if there's a controversial the xenomorph itself is obviously fantastic, but it's actually my least favorite alien design in at least the first movie, because all of the aliens are amazing and disgusting, and like I love the face hugger. The baby alien as well, running across the floor is got to be one of the best shots in cinema history.
Did Spaceballs ruin that a little bit? Where it comes out and does a little dance?
With the top hat.
Yes, the little cute ones. It's they grow up so fast.
Yeah.
You just want to keep those little guys.
They literally grow up too fast. They really do. Literally, they do.
We haven't really talked about this as body horror and how quickly, right? Because that is the real, like you're saying, Al, it's not that there could be a giant thing with its slavering double jaws hiding around the corner. It's that you have been infested with something that is going to kill you.
Yeah, alien tadpoles in your water.
that is, and it goes so quickly in the films to pregnancy, so I'm a little sad that Sarah didn't watch, apparently, Alien Resurrection or Alien 3 or, because it gets, you're going to have...
I actively avoided it.
Covenant or Prometheus, one of those two. There's like somebody who's infected with the alien has sex with somebody else, and now she's pregnant with alien. So, okay, that's a thing, apparently.
That sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah. So I don't know if these are done so clumsily that women don't feel some extra horribleness about it, but certainly the chest bursting, that's a thing. that's the real trope of this movie.
Yeah. And they brought it back for the show too.
I'm glad that character that now he's eyeball, just to spoil something at the very end, that now he's eyeballs. We get more of that actor because I kind of liked him, but I didn't buy that guy being married to the British woman.
Oh no,
at all.
Me either.
They had no chemistry.
I really
didn't. They had like one
either.
Conversation that you're like, you're not a married couple bickering through like that. No.
There was no chemistry at all. I agree.
Yeah, that relationship made no sense to me.
Like there was no chemistry. I didn't believe they'd ever had sex. There was nothing going on there. I agree.
No, they were coworkers at best.
Yeah.
Well, there's still time to establish that.
Or maybe their relationship had fallen off a cliff and they were just, in the last throes of it, they would be divorced soon. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. I didn't get it.
Maybe British lady will fall in love with the eyeball corpse, and then we can further explore this.
There is no way.
That'll be the romantic comedy that you've been wanting in season 2.
It's an alien for Sarah. Finally.
Yeah, part of the alien design, it was people in costumes, and I think that was supposed to be a thing that was like
I did like
about
that.
the new show, like they're back in costumes
Yeah, they brought
again.
that back.
So that is the practical effects versus CGI is always a thing we're commenting on.
And I thought they did a good job. I mean, that was part of the thing I enjoyed about the first Alien film. It was just a guy in a costume running around. This was good. So,
little puppets.
Listener, there are things to recommend about the show. So even though we've been kind of, except for Mark, we've been kind of crapping on the show, there are things to recommend about the show. I thought it was fun. There are some really good acting choices. I just would have liked a bit more of a cohesive story. But episode 5, if you're just really dying to watch a
remake of
Alien, episode 5 is a great one. It's a great remake, but maybe just watch the original movie.
And I love that he brought back some of his Fargo cast members.
Oh, did he? I didn't recognize that.
Yes, I love that. I love seeing them play people in outer space.
Do you know what I really love about the future? It's that a deep space research vessel is laid out in exactly the same way as a deep space tow truck from the first movie. Everything about the interior of those ships is absolutely identical.
All right. Thanks for listening. Some of us at least will stick around and have a little bit of after talking. I want to get a little more into some of these other movies. I had some questions, at least for Lawrence, who bothered to watch them. And I'm sure we can think of other things to talk about. PrettyMuchPop.com. I hope you are subscribed directly to the podcast, even if you're listening through the Partially Examined Life feed. We'd love to leave a nice rating or review. And Patreon.com/PrettyMuchPop is how to get that after talking for just about every episode. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Pretty Much Pop is part of the Partially Examined Life podcast network. Get more Pretty Much Pop at prettymuchpop.com. Get bonus content for every episode at patreon.com/prettymuchpop.